So, hi everyone. I am wanting to make a video today to talk about core archetypes and how we can work towards embodying core archetypes within ourselves and coming into greater unification within the masculine and feminine within ourselves so that we can cultivate being. And through that cultivation of being, come into deeper realizations of quintessence. So working with polarity is a really core element in our work. And primarily because polarity will constantly show up as you're exploring your inner space and as things arise to be seen and heard and met, you will often notice that polarities will reveal themselves. So polarity is also fundamental to the mechanics of magnetism and the generation of magnetism, and therefore the cultivation of creativity and being. So ultimately what we're doing is we're wanting to unify polarity within ourselves so that that process of cultivation of magnetism and creativity is occurring as a self-sustainable process. And we are not depending upon an element outside of us, so a separation of polarity in order to generate and self-resource that creative unfolding. And then, of course, because we ultimately want to come into complete unification, that involves there being a union of inner and outer, which means another or others can appear as part of that creative cultivation and building of magnetism. So that is embedded within unity consciousness. There is this beautiful dance of magnetism that inherently cultivates being and that ultimately leads us all into deeper revelations of essence. So obviously the primary polarity that which in our work again is a really useful way for us to break things down, is working with masculine and feminine. And masculine and feminine is really at the deeper foundations of consciousness, usually more experienced as yin and yang. And then at a more kind of in the external and the practical elements of our lives and relationships, it might feel like the words masculine and feminine match more fully the nature of how you experience that primary polarity. So masculine and feminine is within all of existence. Any aspect of duality within that, you can experience and be intimate with the properties of masculine and feminine. And masculine and feminine cannot be separated. Ultimately, no matter what percentage of masculine or feminine there is within a polarity, the two cannot exist without one another. So you really can't separate them. But often it is a question of really drawing out the quality of masculine and feminine within an experience to be able to fully appreciate the nature of that, the nature of what's harvesting within an experience of polarity. So for example, in the I Ching, you don't find any, there's no, none of the readings can show an exclusion of masculine or feminine, even if it's 90% masculine and 10% feminine or 1% feminine. The I Ching shows you that you can't separate the two. So the question is coming into a deepening experience of the nature of the polarity that's revealing itself, and really harvesting the creative fruit of that particular dynamic. So exploring core archetypes is a really helpful way for you to cultivate creativity in your relationships, and to bring in the medicine that may be needed for the relationship to kind of move into a new level of dynamism and fruitfulness. So, and really to cultivate the beingness of your external, I'm using the word external, but if you're in full unification, what is happening within you is recognizable to be a reflection of your inner coherence, or possibly your inner state of separation. So core archetypes. I once watched this wonderful video, which unfortunately doesn't seem to be available anymore, from this therapist, and she was describing some core archetypes, feminine and masculine archetypes. And the title of the video was How to Attract a Strong Masculine. And she was describing the counterparts to various feminine archetypes. And I don't remember all of them, but I'll name a few of them just to kind of give a little fodder for this exploration. So, and, you know, obviously, yeah, so I'll start there. So, for example, she was describing the mother archetype. You know, the mother is all inclusive, unconditional love, nurture. You know, she's really the one that is taking care of everything, making sure that everything is taken care of. And really for her, safety and kind of feeling the security of the home and the hearth, and feeling protected is a really key element in the mother archetype, the experience of the mother archetype. And so she was describing in this video how the counterpart to the mother is the leader, and how she really attracts and is attracted to the leader. And it's because of his capacity to take responsibility and kind of really show up and lead, and really, you know, at a kind of very material level, be very, very present to what's needed and direct things in a strong way. And I would include in that kind of qualities of nobility and honor and integrity. So obviously you can feel into yourself as I'm sharing, you know, when I say name an archetype, you can feel in your own inner space and your own psyche, how those archetypes feel within you, because really, ultimately we want to be journeying with our own experience, and really that is the invitation in our work, is to really embody the quality of that within you and let that build. And then, so if you're feeling right now, if you do feel a strong resonance with the mother archetype, you can just notice how that feels in your inner space, what qualities and properties of the feminine expression there feels like at a gestalt somatic experience. And then when you feel settled in that, you can start to tune into the qualities of the masculine, or where is the masculine in relationship to that archetype. And yeah, so I'm just going to take a moment feeling into that in myself. And when I feel into the mother, I have, it actually takes me And I feel that's because I'm actually resting at the quintessential level, which is what gets unearthed, like through unification of masculine and feminine, strong masculine and feminine. And if there's been a strong cultivation there, it takes you into what we call the monadic or the quintessential experience. And so when I tune into that, I actually go straight into the monad, which is a very indivisible field, or the space within and around me feels indivisible, and when I feel into the mother, I notice that in my voice, something in my voice, and something is highlighting itself that's not just the quintessence. And so it's very, very subtle. And that's because of where I'm sitting with that in myself. But you could tune into that and have qualities that really feel like I am a mother, and that is where you would start and really let yourself feel what it's like to be a mother. And then that might deepen into just a sensory experience, or a state, or a feeling state, a yumminess or a warmth, and then that might deepen again. And so that's really how we're working with identity. We just start with what lights up and let that together with the absolute or silence deepen until we really get to that as quintessential level. So that's the lover. And you can tune in so I'll tune into the masculine there because I was tuning into the mother. So let me see. So the mother. It's very hard for me to unpick at this point, masculine and feminine, but it definitely highlights a Shiva consciousness, my foundational experience of Shiva consciousness, Father Sky. And I feel like I also notice what gets highlighted is a warmth, like a love in my chest. And if I actually really deepen into that, I start to feel really gooey. So there's definitely something there for me to keep sitting with. Yeah, that feels very juicy for me to feel that actually really down the whole front of my body. And I can feel that that wants to be really reveled in. Interesting, actually, because I recognize, had I not just tuned into that, I wouldn't have really noticed quite what that felt like in my inner space. And it kind of makes me feel like there's been a deficiency or a lack of full, deeper penetration. So if I was carrying on with that, I would just keep sitting with that in myself and letting it deepen. And I can feel there's a fruit there for me, a treasure to harvest from that process. So I'm going to come back to that. So yeah, let's, another core archetype that this therapist was naming, and I'm referring to her because I want to honor her video. Unfortunately, it's not there, and I think her name was Lesley Tavernier or Tranvier. I'll look it up. Anyway, she was naming the let's spill into another one. Oh, the mage archetype. So the kind of feminine, the witch, the mage, the sorceress, and she was describing the mage as she tends to live in isolation. She needs a lot of time on her own. She lives really lives according to the cycles of nature. She's a very deep, mysterious, wise. She's the healer. She's really tending to the whole, the collective. And so very much often in the unseen. And she was describing, so you can, just as I'm sharing that, feel into that archetype within yourself and notice the properties or uniqueness of that, how that lights up within you. And she was describing the mage's counterpart as the warrior. And I remember when I listened to this, it really matched my experience as someone who has lived a very kind of isolated spiritual life for a big portion of my life, and kind of really identified with, I guess, the mage archetype. I really resonated with the counterpart being the warrior, because the warrior is strong and so he can handle her depth and intensity. But the warrior doesn't stay. He kind of is passionate. He comes and then he goes. And that suits the mage. He will protect her and she needs protecting. And also he doesn't stay. So it's kind of matching her need for isolation and alone time. So again, I can already feel the the bubblings up of that in my own inner space and what that stirs in me. So it's interesting to revisit these and just feel into, you know, if as I'm naming this, anything lights up, it points to identification. And you know when you're in ultimate unification, because it's completely indivisible. There's just pure experience, pure expression. But the stepping stones along the way are essential because it's part of the cultivation of being. So it's not like, oh, let's just go straight into, I mean, great if you go straight into indivisibility, but have you lived the steps along the way? Have you let them live within you and express and be embodied towards a building of energy that then, when that building has fulfilled itself, leads you into the energy of transcendence? So yeah, so the mage and the warrior. And so you can, as I did with the lover and with the mother and the leader, you can tune into that and see, journey with that further on your own. So yeah, let me see if I can name another one. I think she was naming the lover, and no, let me go into, I think she was talking about the holy whore or the prostitute, and I can't remember whether she put her in the same category as the lover. But I remember her saying, and this really matched how deeply misunderstood the holy whore is, and how she's often seen, I think it is the lover, and she was saying she's often seen like a prostitute, but she is really important and essential to our time. She really embodies the freedom of love and passion, and I think, as Almas would describe, the kind of pomegranate-y time. Almas is from the Diamond Heart approach, and he wrote a beautiful book on the essences of love, and he describes the pomegranate-y love. So that's what I tune into when I feel into the lover. Yeah, and the lover really, I think, I don't know if she was putting them together, but when I feel into the lover, I feel a lot of devotion. It really feels like the terrain of the beloveds, the Shiva Shakti, the deep bathing in the kind of infinite togetherness. And when she was talking about the prostitute, my sense is she was naming her as a different archetype, and that would make sense to me. She was describing her partner or lover or strong masculine as the negotiator, or maybe the lover's partner was the negotiator. And yeah, and that I feel that, you know, the guy, he's got charisma, he's kind of charming his way through. He, you know, because the lover, you know, in the way she was describing her, she loves to be adored, she wants to be worshipped, she wants to walk through the space and for everyone to see how beautiful she is, and she thrives off being reveled in and adored and worshipped. And that's been so demonized as an experience that it's needed to be reclaimed and restored. And then it's kind of gone into the other way of being deeply distorted through identification with the body, and a lack of essential revelation of the lover. And that leads to kind of these sort of sex distortions, porn, pornography, and kind of these really, really unhealthy expressions of sexuality. So, yeah, but again, just really tune into what is alive within you. It's a really important starting point, you know, so just notice how those archetypes or core archetypes land within you, what qualities emerge, what separations emerge. You know, like if you tune into the lover, there might be like, I can't be that, and or some layer of judgment. So yeah, just noticing, you know, firstly, choose with this way of working, you want to feel into what compels you, you know, because that's going to point to a natural enthusiasm to embody and kind of harness that creativity. And also tune into what, if you are in relationship, or, you know, you can look at anything relational, you know, your relationship with your work, with your family. You can start to feel into what core archetypes could nourish that, and what wants cultivating. And then one way to tune into one of the core archetypes is to feel into men or women, either in your life that you know, or that are famous. They could be anyone really, that embody the archetype that you are wanting to, and they've really got it down, and they're really expressing that creative archetype. And so as a woman, you know, that could look like embodying an ideal partner or an ideal man or an ideal archetype. But you can also do it with other women that are inhabiting feminine, or whatever, whoever it is that seems to have that quality. And you'll know because you'll be attracted to them. And yeah, and then we would, in our work, we would explore that using reflection technique. So it's our it's Lisa's kind of family jewel, and she has a wonderful video describing and guiding you through it. And anyone working with us, it's a really primary tool that we use, and it's a way of coming into greater unification within yourself in relationship to another or a scenario or anything really. And it's kind of our version of shamanic recapitulation, but it's a lot simpler and really grounded in coming into unification with silence and the deepest absolute, and cultivating source remembering. So I hope that there are obviously so many other core archetypes, and if you're listening to this and you want to name some core archetypes, you can write in the comments box and maybe write a few words to describe how you experience them. And that can maybe provide more fodder and fuel for people's own explorations. Yeah, there's really no end. You can work with goddess, god archetypes, beings, benevolent beings, whatever draws you, really. and the idea is that we're coming into realization of the qualities of that within yourself, and that will appear uniquely. And yeah, so if you have any questions or would like to comment on this video, I would love to read your comments. Lisa and I have a retreat coming up, Healing and Integration, in November, and we will dedicate some space in that retreat to masculine and feminine exploration within whatever you're working with. Yeah, so thank you for listening and journeying with me, and yeah, have a beautiful continuation.